Hey, what's up, peeps? Y de lo mío. Sit down and take a seat. Que lo que siéntate. Lawrence and beyond and everybody else, what's going on? Hey, on this episode, hosting like always, your boy Majimbe. And today I got 3 special guests. Let's go. We got Jonathan, we got Joshua, we got Kassie. And I'm sorry, I struggle with names. But what's good, guys? How you guys doing?
Thank you for having us here. We're good.
I know,
Kassie?
it's great to be here. Thank you. Yes, good job.
All right. Making sure.
I love that. No worries.
Thank you. And guys, briefly introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Jonathan Guzman. I'm a school committee member.
Seriously.
Yo, you're gonna make me laugh the whole time. Espérate. But yeah, I'm Jonathan Guzman. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm a school committee member for District F of Lawrence.
District F of Lawrence. Oh, I saw your tuxedo and everything. Yeah, I saw the picture.
He's always well dressed.
Yeah.
Always. It's
Thank
an
you.
inspiration for me.
We gotta stop.
I
dress.
love
people,
them.
you
I
know?
love my team. It's so good.
He has a style team.
Oh.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Kassie Infante, and I am the school committee member for District A, which is Prospect Hill neighborhood. I am just Dominicana from Lawrence. I'm 26 years old, and I am really passionate about politics. I'm really passionate about progressive and equitable politics that really represent my people in the greater community and not just the interest of the privileged few. And so that's what really fuels me in this work. I'm excited to be here with you for this conversation.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No, I love it.
Stop.
I love
Right?
Kassie. No,
Just go. It was a little longer
Yeah.
than him.
I give
See
props
that?
for awkward and shit, but that's props.
It was
though.
You see, why did I go first?
just
You
go.
want to add anything? You want to ask
I'm
something?
done. I'm
You
done.
have an opportunity.
I'm
Go
done.
ahead. Go ahead.
She sounded good.
Joshua Alba.
¿De
like
dónde?
Long
¿De
Lawrence
dónde?
resident. De aquí. Primer generación, you know. Shout out to mommy. And longtime activist in the community, fighting for social justice on a bunch of issues: education, immigration, economic, social issues. So a school committee member as well in District D. That's Tower Hill. That's like the Bruce, all the way down to Water Street side. And thank you for having us. Thank you for having me.
And I see you guys are from different districts. I mean, usually when we're having people from different groups, they're not working together. You know, it's like you guys aren't enemies or anything. Different districts work in a whole like-minded, like let's say mission. How is that? How do you guys work together from different districts? Because I wouldn't expect you guys to be in the same team per se. It looks like you guys are in the same team.
We have been called the Lawrence Squad.
Yo, we
you know
squatted
what
up
that
mad hard
means.
this past election. Yeah.
We did squad. I think
Yeah.
we're 3 really young Lawrence natives. We're Latino, and we feel very strongly about some level of progressive politics where we don't agree on every single issue at the national level, but when it comes to Lawrence and the schools and the education system here, we are all on the same page. I think we all came we came at this from the perspective that we are pro-local control. We really believe in the power of the community and organizing people to organize in their own self-interest as opposed to, positions of power telling us what's best for us. Like we really represent the people, and I think that's what we strive to do. And so the reference to the squad is, as you know, Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez and our new
Shout out AOC.
Yes, our new fearless congresswomen. They've been called the squad. They've been grouped together because they've been really courageous in their leadership and very fearless in doing what they feel is right, regardless of the resistance that they get.
But that sounds, I mean, I don't want to sound rude or anything, but it's like you said, basically they're fearless, they'll go far, they'll go for their goal regardless of what anybody says. But I mean, I'm sure you guys have a lot of heads thinking about, is this the right thing to do, though?
Right.
We can't just do this because we think it's the right thing. Is it ethically the right thing? You know?
Absolutely.
I think, I feel like for us itself, like you said, like we have different districts that we represent. But at the end of the day, we still won with the school committee. We are representing the student population, our next generation, and making sure that they are all represented rather than just a percentage of them. And when it comes to the receivership and stuff like that, that the people don't have the voice, that's when the lack of representation happens. And when these young individuals ran, people were excited because we don't have control. We have the power. We have the voice of the people, and we are bringing back what it is, the power in making decisions for our people. We don't want outsiders to be making the decisions for our people, for our students. We want them to be able to put in their own opinions and say what is working and what is not. And when we have great individuals that listen and take the time to understand what's going on, that's how we start. You know, we don't need outsiders, people that
less sanctuary.
You get me? Yeah. So we want to make sure that again, that's a great point, that there's always it's the right thing to do, it's the right move, and that's what that's when it comes into representing a district. You know, you're able to bring it all into a little space where different opinions are said, and then you make a decision based on that, and you represent. But when we come together, we all here for the kids. We all here for the next generation, to moving forward and making sure that they. The biggest thing for me is, I want these kids to succeed, to go out of. They have to get out of Lawrence and get an education, but I want to see them back. I want them to come back and invest in our city, because that's how we're gonna move forward.
Yeah, no, like to what you were saying about like we're talking about like national, like AOC and stuff, and like talking about like us working together as a squad. I feel like this position comes with the responsibility of being a representative and like going in and like communicating and helping people fight for themselves and get what they need to get, using that badge of like, I'm a public official now, you know, let's do what you want to do type of thing. But also there's that piece of, because of our community is not so civically engaged or civically informed, we don't teach this stuff in school, you know what I mean? There's not a manual for us. We're new immigrants still to this country, you know what I mean? My mother came from DR. We're still learning how to like navigate. We got power, but there's no means by no means do we have like everything locked down. And so some of it comes with educating the community as well on those fundamental issues that it's like AOC and them are just like, yo, like we need a Green New Deal. Yeah. The planet's, you know, we're gonna die soon because we're not gonna be able to live on this planet. We all agree on that basic fundamental thing. You know what I mean? Like we need local control. People have the right to run their own schools. Like there's no question about it. And then we have to like communicate that to the community, because the community doesn't even know that that's happening.
Doesn't even know.
So it's just,
I'd love to talk about that, because when we were on the campaign trail, I think that sounds really fancy, but when we were canvassing, which is basically another fancy word for door knocking to get support for votes, we realized we were running on the platform of regaining local control, but we found that not a lot of parents actually knew about that or know what that is. So I think I'd love to share a little bit about that. Long story short, about 10 years ago, right? The Department of Education took over the Lawrence public school system because it was considered to be underperforming. And what they mean by that is test scores, right? So we weren't meeting MCAS expectations or standardized test scores, which you can argue is problematic in and of itself, because test scores are really not indicative to long-term student success and all of those things.
That's next episode.
Yeah, that's that. but what that means is that as a school committee, we don't have the power to vote or make decisions on really important things. A regular school committee in this country has a huge amount of influence. So I'll share. They can vote on budget finances, staff, curriculum, student life, disciplinary measures, and they also hold the superintendent accountable So it's basically, if you can think of it as maybe like a checks and balances, if you will, in comparison to the national government. But school committees are incredibly influential in how schools are run. But because we are under state receivership, we don't have those same powers. So who has that power instead is what's called a receivership board, and that's the Lawrence Alliance for Education.
We're still under that right now?
We are under that. So it's taxation without representation, because the people decided they want us to represent them and their students on behalf of the school. Yet we don't have that actual power. But what we do have, as Jonathan was alluding to, is we have our voice to where we can talk to our constituents and bring their needs forward. The difference is the superintendent can decide to do nothing with that, and we have no means to hold them accountable.
Yeah.
So it gets a little tricky when you're trying to work with a group of people and you're not getting, when you're speaking to them that they're not hearing you. They're just nodding their head and saying, I will take care of it. The great thing about this group is that is coming in, and when I say group, us three, is more of
third person,
of the school committee. The school committee is that we know our way around the city. Like, I didn't say nothing about myself in the beginning, but like I've been in Lawrence since 2010. So I was part of the whole receivership when it took over in 2012. I saw the difference, the change, right? I was one of those kids that came right from Puerto Rico, and I was told to take a test.
Yeah.
Take a test. You got me? No English. And I was instructed to take a biology test. You know what I mean? Now I'm about my degree's in biology, but it's like, why will you make somebody take such tests then? And it just comes into the conclusion too that if higher education is dropping that, standard testing and making their data from that, why are still local level Lawrence public school systems and just Massachusetts in general still hold on to that?
It was like you were set up to fail.
Yeah. It's like
it was another barrier.
Are there cities from other states are dealing with this stuff?
Yeah, we have 3 other cities that are under local control. It started with Lawrence, and then
Receivership.
The receivership started with Lawrence, and then
Holyoke
is another
and
one.
Southbridge.
Yeah, there are 2. The difference between that's a great point between Holyoke, right, and ours is that Marilena Rivera, which was the vice chair from the school committee past years, right?
She was in my seat before I got in.
Exactly. So basically what happened is going on over there that is different from us is that they're having joint meetings. They're communicating with that board that is in charge. They're having a good conversations because they understand themselves that the public votes, right, to choose elected officials that they feel comfortable with, that they can go to. Yeah. And we have seen that. We have seen that since our emails are out, our phone numbers are out. We get reached out. People want to sit down with us, and it makes us feel amazing for people to, respect us, understand that we're here for them, and that we're not gonna, just let it go. We're gonna fight for them.
Fight for it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's dope. And and it means, and with all that right now, what would you say is the current, like, let's say if you guys had goals, what goal right now you guys fighting for? There's a whole bunch in the hat.
It's true. It's true. So with the receivership, we've been told that we still have 3 years of under the receivership for the Lawrence Public Schools.
That's what they all say.
That's what
they say every year. Every time it gets renewed.
So in order to transition out of a receivership, there needs to be a formal transition plan made. So we've been talking about that with community members, thinking about what their needs are, and formulating that. That I would say is maybe more of a long-term goal. But one of our go ahead.
Just to specify what a transition plan is how are we going to phase back power from the state to local people? Are we going to have joint meetings? Are we going to be able to start voting on maybe the budget, or maybe learning how to evaluate the superintendent, or are they going to give us more training? But there's no transition plan. there's none of that happening. So it's just like.
Do you think is because other politician or elected officials from the city, from different, not from like school stuff, but in other positions in our city that makes it the gears run? Do you think is because some of them have been caught with corruption or allegations, and maybe that's why it might be working against you guys, because like, hey, what should we let these guys vote if they might fall under the same corruption? Maybe.
Right.
You think that's part of it?
Yo, I feel like, have y'all ever read Latino City, that book yet?
I have not. I
Does it
need
do?
to read it.
It came out a few years ago.
Lawrence.
Some woman from some university
Lana
spent like
Barber.
10 years or something in Lawrence in partnership with the Lawrence History Center. Yo, everybody needs to read this book. It's about us. It's about your parents. It's about your grandparents.
Wait, what's the name of this book?
Latino City.
Yeah, I
Latino
need to
City.
read
It's about Lawrence. It's about Lawrence.
Wait, is that the one that you were like an interview for?
No.
No?
No.
He's been
Yeah,
everywhere.
something else. But I was helping to represent kind of that, what they're talking about, that there's a revitalization happening in Lawrence, that, you know, white people love to say that Lawrence fucked up the city, that, you know, we're all criminals, that we're drug dealers, toda vaina, you know what I mean? It's just like, yo, but like, because we're asking about the receivership, I'm going to bring that back together in a minute, that after World War II, all these white people that fought in the war got all this money, like welfare essentially, to go move into Andover, Methuen, whatever. And then there was a huge white flight from the city. Latinos weren't here yet. Latinos started to come in the 60s, 70s, 80s. And we revitalized the city. The Vietnamese came here. The Cambodians came here. The Cubans came here. And you know, we built up the city with our taxi cabs, our nail salons, our fucking salons,
Restaurants.
the restaurants, the barbershops. But like, so the problem is that I'm saying here is that we live in a very conservative area where white supremacy and racism is still very much alive. There was in 1984, the Boricuas here had a riot because they weren't getting their streets, the trash picked up, and they weren't allowed to. Essentially, they were stopping them from getting positions hired in City Hall. So the Boricuas, like, it's a much more complicated story than that or whatever, but they call it a race riot.
It was very violent. Very
Right.
violent.
And that opened up the way for the Dominicans to come through, to get elected, and start trying to run shit, right? But, like, I think a lot of that, like, Lawrence is so, like, look at just the way that Lawrence is built. 7 square miles, high concentration of poverty, very wealthy area in Andover. There are forces involved, like big money developers, like state and politicians that are looking at our, like, we are workers. All the companies around hire us, and they exploit us and our families, right? So every time that somebody gets elected into public office, who are they getting funded by? What's happening in the city? There's a whole redevelopment project happening right now. How does the schools fit into all of that? If people don't have control of our own schools, and getting elected to school committee is the first place that black and brown poor people get into public office and learn what civic life is, what it is to be a politician, what it is to run things, and they take that away from us, that stops me, that stops you, that stops everybody in this room, everybody in the city from becoming the mayor one day, from becoming the state representative one day. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not a conspiracy. You know, they don't have to call you a racial slur to your face. It's in the policy that keeps us disempowered. In the policy that doesn't, like, they're not giving us any training. The only thing I could say is that you're setting us up to fail. So as soon as you guys leave, if the state leaves, we're not going to have the proper training to run things because you ain't even working with us, and we're trying to work with you. You won't even let us put things on the fucking agenda.
Yeah.
And that's a problem.
You know, and that's a great point. And like, the only training that we got for this was just a few hours. You know, a lot of information thrown to us. The good thing, you know, like, we go out, we educate ourselves, we understand. Each of us work in different aspects in the community, so we know, and we bring it back and we educate ourselves. And when people speak to us, we make sure that we all on the same page. Because in the day, we might be on districts again, but we represent the whole community. And it's true. And if you see the city council right now, most of them were in our positions before.
Yeah.
You know, they were
a pathway.
they were here. They were on a position. It goes into, you know, the question is that, you know, was there a lack then that this happened now? And there is a disconnection. Yeah. That while we were campaigning, at least myself, I noticed that when I asked questions directly, only a few were able to understand my question and actually be able to understand what's going on. And the city council plays a huge side on the school public system because they vote in budget. You know, there's a percentage that comes into Lawrence, right? We got I believe, the highest percentage of state funding. Yeah. You know, for our school, for our schools, yeah. Right? But there's also a percentage that comes from taxpayers directly in from Lawrence, and we want to make sure that that's when it comes into the big.
Where's all that going to?
What do you mean? So the state
we don't even know.
You know what I mean?
That's the whole point. We don't even know.
Yeah, so the budget,
we don't even know.
Transparency with, but that's
whose pockets are getting filled right now.
Yeah, that's a big
that's the corruption that you talked about.
We want to.
Sometimes we see new buses, you know.
And there's many things that, you know, many areas that we want, like
a lot of kids don't even have buses, and we should have buses.
You know, so I guess again, like into the part that when it comes to taxpayers, you know, they're voting us into this. Their money is getting used to supply and fund our school systems, and if they got something to say, I think it's so despicable when somebody has 2 minutes to speak, in front of a public audience. I find that horrible. I find it so bad that
like just having 2 minutes.
Yeah, like 2 minutes, like for somebody to speak.
Like an ad.
When we have the school committee, and I ran and I noticed that, and I was like. Sadly, I had to run the meeting, our first meeting, because our chair couldn't go and our vice chair of
and thank God you got to run that meeting. Just saying.
So, it gets into the point that when the school committee happens and I see people standing up and only getting 2 minutes, when people come up, we need to acknowledge always when there's public participation. Yeah. If there's any public participation, we have to be glad about it. We gotta you know, clap for them. We need to, no matter what the message is, we want, because it's people that are taking the courage, the time to come to our meetings and educate us or anybody in the room about what their experience is. You know, and you know, and it gets into a lot of spiel on what is going on and where the budget is going to, what are we supplying, what is our main idea of what is needed, and. You know, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So they only talk to you guys for 2 minutes.
Yeah, like,
and we don't even respond.
Yeah.
We can't legally respond.
We just absorb.
Yeah.
You can't legally respond
in that moment.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like legally, but it's just like
it's strange.
The culture of it.
It's the culture. It's a public 2 minutes. You know, the chair usually takes care of it and makes sure that the president has those 2 minutes. Because we have somebody taking notes and stuff like that.
It's real patriarchal, real white
supremacist. That's an old way of doing it. That's very massa.
I love.
It's like we're on our thrones, and I got my cigar. Leave me out of it.
Yeah, we want to change that. We don't want that.
I think it goes back, you know, we talked a little bit about, you mentioned the word corruption. For me, like, corruption is, as a politician, if you're not willing, if you don't have the courage or like the vulnerability to really reflect the voices of your community, then you're just self-serving from that perspective. I think dissent and disagreement in the name of honoring people's stories and their experiences is incredibly important. When we see these presentations that say, you know, things like Lawrence High students love their experience and they feel like high school is their home. You know, to hear that in a PowerPoint, but then to hear stories of how kids don't feel safe, it's not indicative, it's not reflective of their actual experience. So we know that it can't be true. And so I think dissent is very important. Disagreement is important because at the end of the day, like we are doing this to represent our people. We're not doing this just to get along with everyone and to be collegial and just to be friendly and to be nice to keep the
We're
peace
here to make
and to
friends.
keep people comfortable. Because comfort, as we know, we talk about getting out of the comfort zone all the time, and that's where growth and learning happens. But when it comes to the important moments of being courageous, we want to stay comfortable.
You think that's what the higher ups want you guys to do, just to keep us comfortable and don't cause too much trouble?
Absolutely.
Because
Those sorts of words is what they use. And I think also, we talked about Lawrence being civically unengaged. I think, it's for a reason. They're used to not being heard. They're used to not feeling like their voice matters, like their vote doesn't matter. These things, because historically, we've been marginalized for so long. It's the history. It's colonialism. It's capitalism. It's
crazy when you said like my vote is not, and we want to change that. We want to make sure that people know. Like for me, I came in the campaign trail and stuff like that. I came last minute.
You were writing.
I was a writing campaign, and for me to get
nobody ran.
over 100 and something votes, I have to target people and make sure that they knew my mission, that they knew that what I want is the best for our community. You get me? So I wanted to make sure everybody to know, and everything came up. The same thing came out always. How do I know that after you get elected, you're just gonna disappear? Because that happens. It happens where you get elected into office, and it's true. We are busy. Myself, I have my own life, my work life, and then my community life. So, but I always make sure that those everybody knows what I'm doing, where I am. If you guys notice, like I'm posting everything. Sometimes it's like over redundant and posting like my whole life, but it's just because I want to make sure that people know that I'm not. I didn't ghost on them.
Yeah. You're working for the community. You know? You're already transparent.
Yeah, I want to make sure that they know that, and that's what we want. We want everybody that voted for us, right? That took the time to go, and there's a high percentage that didn't go out because they couldn't. You know what I mean? Or something happened.
Couldn't find their ride. Didn't even know.
But they still, follow us. And when you walk into a room and somebody goes, "Hey, I know you. I voted for you." It just goes, you're the reason why I ran. You're the reason why I ran, because people like you that take the time to research, to figure out what's going on, to see the passion and the fire that is in our heart for this. I must say, we don't get paid for this. We don't get paid.
We should be.
Dying.
Just saying.
That's a cinco pesos, but we don't get paid
Lawrence
for this.
City Council, we need 10,000 at least a year. Thank you.
Muchacho.
At least.
We do this out of our heart.
City Council only makes
education.
12.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, we're poor city, though, pero damn. You running things.
I mean, we're getting more funding, and this is what we get paid.
But the funding at the end of the day, the funding is for our kids.
Yeah.
So if I have to give if I get a paycheck and stuff like that, and then there's gonna be the need of books, guess what? I don't want it.
So right now, let's say the status of school. I'm sorry to interrupt you. If I were to go to any of your districts right now, you're telling me I could go in and I won't find a messed up textbook that looked like needed to be repaired 5 years from now. Is that still going on? I'm not sure.
You will.
Yeah.
You will, because at the end of the day, allocation of money is when is going where it's needed. So if a book is still readable, there's another thing that we need to focus on is that we need to update. Biology books and stuff like that, they need to update yearly. New science is brought up. New things are found there. I mean, we're the only actually. I don't like comparing schools, but we one of those districts that our kids don't have the accessibility of technology that much. We're trying to open that up, that a kid can have a MacBook, can have some type of electronic, because we need to keep up with the 21st century. We need to be, if they're visual learners like myself, we need to teach how those kids learn, because that's how they're going to be successful in life.
This is not an endorsement of Apple.
Well, I didn't mention Apple.
But I mean, I think
Mac Apple?
something
I'm an Android and Windows.
something else that's really at the forefront of the conversation right now is teacher retention and cultural relevancy in the classroom. We feel very strongly about that. Lawrence has, I don't know if it's the worst in the state, but one of the worst teacher retention rates. We turn over half of our teacher body every year.
What does that
Of our
mean?
teaching
Yeah,
staff.
I was about to ask that, like, turning over teacher bodies.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I shouldn't have used that word. I'm sorry. So
Next.
half of our every 2 years, half of our teachers leave
Yeah.
Lawrence Public Schools to go work somewhere else.
Elsewhere. Yeah.
Okay.
So that when you think about
Every 2 years. 25%
every 2
every year.
years,
Yeah.
every 2 years. So what that means, when you think about what that means for the student experience, there's no consistency.
Attachment.
Yeah, there's an attachment. We've heard
Trust.
firsthand from parents that say, you know, my daughter came home and said, I'm gonna miss Miss Brown, or you know,
that's a
whatever.
heartbreak.
It's heartbreaking. And so, you know, there's the curriculum and there's a way that a certain classroom is to be taught, but there's a level of autonomy that teachers also bring to the classroom that's really powerful. And so when there's really like no consistency in that, the student learning environment suffers. And we're also, you know, looking at really recruiting more teachers of color to really reflect the student body of Lawrence. We are a majority Latino city.
98.
Yeah. And
98% of our
and
students
English
are
English language learners, and it's important for them to see themselves reflected in that role. It's attributed to better outcomes. Cultural relevance means that they're using materials that reflect their lives, their experience, that a textbook can be seen as a mirror. And
Seeing
think-
little brown kids with froze inside the stories.
yeah, which, you know, we reflect on, you know, there's a lot of things wrong
And-
with
and-
curriculum. We can kind of get into
Exactly.
that, but, you know,
And
we're
that's
still
exactly-
taught that Thanksgiving was a lovely dinner between like the pilgrims and the
yeah.
and the
And
natives.
Columbus was a great
Yeah.
person.
So it's like we're not even taught like the real history, and you know, that's problematic because we're not actually learning of the way why the world is the way that it is. But
Yeah, we should
That's-
learn that the reason why you guys' skin color is the way it is because of Columbus.
Right.
You know what I mean? they need to learn the real history.
We're not learning the working class history. We're learning the working
Yeah.
class of the white man, like the colonizer, of like what they want us to learn, and that serves their interests.
I feel like, and that's when it comes into the,
No, it's
again,
true.
the school community power. The school
I did
community,
not
you know, there's state like state law, you know, that we need to follow and stuff like that as education and what we can present into a community. But then when it comes into local level, the school committee, you know, those that are in charge of the school system, they have the power to look into this. You know, they're able to read these books and see if there's some type of change that we need, if that's the funding that we need to move forward, if we need new books, if our teacher retention, I'm gonna bring that back, is low because these kids, we don't have the same type of how you say it, like this, like if you go to Boston, you know, it's school systems that they need requirements. You need this many requirements in order to work with them. You know, we accept whoever comes because, you know, we don't have a high retention. You know, we don't.
Right,
so they
right,
come
yeah,
here,
right.
they gather whatever they need, and they leave. And some will
Attrition.
attack me. Some attack me. Oh no, they don't need to look like the kids and stuff. And that's true, to represent the kids. But when you need a teacher that wants to learn about our history, that wants to say,
Culturally
I
competent.
understand why you're acting this way.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand, you know, that I need to put a little bit of my time on what it is to self-learn your history and your community history. It's not a teacher that just comes, teaches. If you have a teacher that does that teaches, gets her paycheck, and goes home.
Pamphlets.
That's it. That's it. Here's a test. You don't want that type of culture. We are in a different type of generation that the kids want to feel welcome. They want to walk into a classroom and be like, hi, Miss Good, you know, Kassie Infante, how you doing? Like, I seen all these videos that teachers, like, with the handshakes and the love, and you wanted that type of affection with our kids want to feel welcome,
Right.
that they want to go to school. That's when you have, you know, you have that
Right.
student and teacher
the
relationship.
engagement.
You know, that engagement feeling. When they say that our kids feel like home, we don't see it. We don't.
That's not to say that there's not good teachers,
there's just.
But we're not
few-
here to talk about that.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into chronic absenteeism, which was another concern. The learning environment is just not engaging for a lot of students. They don't want to be there. They're not
The thing is,
excited
it's
about
like,
learning.
the thing is, my reason for all that. I mean, there might be a better reason for this, but is that everything is advancing, but the school system and curriculum. I mean, how many 100-year-old that we're like, oh, I have this many periods. These are the subjects. For hundreds of years, or who knows how many years, and everything else outside of that bubble is advancing. Technology, the way that people communicate, words, music, cars, everything else, but this little school thing that keeps staying the same. Like maybe there's a different structure that's more effective to the kids that are now more prone to just short attention spans. You know, maybe the hours need to change, but like somebody needs to take the balls to really shake the cage, because we're getting more separate to the point that we're gonna raise our kids like, nah, school's an option. Don't worry. Once you're 18, I'll get you some experience over here. Learn from YouTube, and we'll get you a little program. Because, you know, is it gonna turn like that in the future? Like how we need to make school a little bit more important.
And we know that in other districts that are richer, like Phillips Academy, Andover High, St. John's, they're getting way better education than we get.
Oh, they have a ton of, hey, when you're 20, this is what you'll be doing. But
Right, that's the
this is what you're gonna do.
privatization of education in this country that's happening. It's, you know, the privatization really only works and benefits the privileged few and not the greater good. And I think, like, at a fundamental level, something that I really believe in, and I can't speak on behalf of Josh and Jonathan, but I try to really not just think of myself, like, as an individual and think about my situation alone, but I think as an elected official, it's really important to think of the broader community and my role in the greater good. I think we tend to get in trouble when we, you know, we have to understand that, like, when we all do better as individuals, collectively, like, our community will prosper. And the privatization of education, that means charter schools, that means private schools, that means, you know, a percentage of really high education opportunities for just a few students, and it really draws attention away, and sometimes with charter schools, resources, like actual money, away from the public school system. And so it is something that concerns me, and it's something that I don't think we're talking about enough on the national level in politics.
And I
Just give me some ideas. Go ahead, man.
And I feel like, and talking about the charter school, like, I'm gonna throw this, like, it's I believe it's so selfish, and where you know, we're bringing and opening these schools, and within our school system, our public school system, we're creating academies. You know, we're not fixing what we have. We're creating new stuff. You know what I mean? Rather than starting from zero. You know, you have something developed that's been running for years. Like Lawrence High School, you know, is my district, and Lawrence High was built with a purpose, with a mission, you know? And they
Thanks to
changed
Maria
it.
de la Cruz.
You know what I mean? They change it, yeah. So
Yeah.
they change it. They change the whole academy aspect. They change everything, you know what I mean? And to be honest, and I always say that, when it gets into forgetting, when the kids, we lose our percentages of public school system, right? When we lose our kids to like charter schools and stuff like that, and then those charter schools don't want them because they're on, you know, they're not qualifying or they're not getting the good grades. You know, or they're special ed, which they don't have the resources for those kind of for those kids. The public system, we don't say no to them. We take them in, but you know what doesn't come with them? The public, the funding that was given to that school to support that kid. You know what I mean? So then we as a public system, we're going to figure it out. We're going to look for whatever it is to make sure that kid gets the right education, or at least a decent education to be somebody in life.
I wanted to ask a question. Well, before I even ask a question, I was getting an idea. I wonder if, like, I mean, the public system it's not that it's doing a bad job they're doing a bad job. I feel there's just a bad job in terms of advancing, right? And with that being said, I wonder if they're just letting that boat literally drown, sink, and more and kind of leaning people to make more private schools, more of these things. And it'll be to the future. It's like, oh, we got 20 different billionaires with they're all different schools or everywhere, you know, because you know they're running it better. I want, because it's like, why? I mean, it's obvious that we need to upgrade, and it's not happening. It's like slowly they're trying to push the wealthy and the passionate to do it themselves and stuff like that, because you know government control has never been great in this area in terms of that. Who knows? But the question I wanted to ask, for that receivership, I'm imagining there's a deal. Like, what's the hot dog? Like, what do we need to meet so they could get off our back? Like, what is it, like? Ultimate test scores? Like, what? How do we get out?
That's kind of what it is. There's the turnaround plan that talks about where they want to be in terms of test scores, dropout rates, and there's like 3 other areas that I can't remember off the top of my head. Coño, what the hell else is? I don't even know. Whatever, you can look it up. The superintendent tells us. You can look it up on the website. It's just like, thank you.
No direction.
You should be sending that to me directly.
Yeah, but it gives them everything. That is a true thing, at least with our alliance and us, is that what we speak of is public. It's for the public eye. Everybody has access to it, to an extent. You know what I mean? That's when we go in and we figure out there's a section that was not given to the public, and we go in and we make sure, like, what is going on with this. You know, and that's what if we can switch it, that's when it comes into the Student Opportunity Act. What is going on with that funding, with that strategy plan that we're supposed to submit to the state on April? We're supposed to have a plan of what is it. We got the largest lump sum amount of money.
Over $100 million over the course of 7 years.
To support our kids.
Over 150.
And we still, as school community members, don't know what's going on. They're talking about it. And by March they're gonna have, but if you think about it, if a percentage of people are supporting or representing a community, and this is it's money, it's something that we need to know where is the need for it. And if somebody's presenting to you, you want to have enough time to take that presentation back, look into it, ask the right questions, figure out yourself, have your own education on it. Because that's the thing that we see a lot, is that there is high qualified individuals that are representing us right now, but they don't go out there. You hear the questions that they should have been researching already that day, right? Like, if you there's certain questions that you're like, why didn't you figure out that yourself? Why are you allowing somebody to tell you what they want you to listen?
Is there any way you can get like a lawyer involved?
So we do have legal counsel. We have the legal counsel, but to an extent. I myself, I don't know. I believe this is a voting right when you take the power away from the people, and you get me. Yeah. So I strongly believe that that's a way that we can target this whole receivership, because they didn't give a high population of the city to figure out, do you guys want this? We rather than ask, be like, hey guys, we see that this is happening to your school system. We have this plan. Can we please go in and help you out? Rather than, we're taking everything, we're making the decisions for you, you're just gonna listen. That's not okay. That's not okay. You're taking the power for the same people that vote, the same people that put their taxes, the same people. You get me? Like, it's not okay. They live here, and when you don't live, the biggest question that I throw to these administrators is, will you put your kid in the school system?
Oh man, I know they won't.
You got me? So when I ask those questions, you got me? No, I don't live. Why don't you live here? I mean, and that's the thing too that we want. We want to make sure that
warrants.
You get me?
You're gonna get killed.
We want people. No, we want people. We want the people that the same people that go out and get a degree in education stuff that come back. We want to see those people representing us in the administration of a public school system. We want to be able to for them, because relation. If you relate to a community and you're able to make decisions upon experience, that's gonna help so much. But when you just go, you open a book and you go, this work here, let me just implement it here. It's you don't have that relationship with the community and stuff like that. And I feel like we need to do better.
Investment. Yeah.
We need to do better.
And does the mayor have any power to help you guys?
Yes, he does. He does, and I'm gonna talk about it. I'm sorry. I'm like the mayor is the chair of the school committee. He takes part of the alliance board as well, the board that is in control right now.
Receivership board.
And he has the power. He has the power to speak to the right people and get us involved more on the decision making. You know, and
he runs all the meetings.
Yeah, I mean, he runs the meetings. Well, he doesn't run the alliance one. He's just a board member. But he runs ours, and when he comes into the question, the answer that, you know, they don't even let us put like subjects onto the agenda. That's when it comes to, you know, it's like
that's his decision.
Yeah,
Silencing.
that's his decision. You know,
And he's been saying no for.
You got me? So,
years.
It gets
For a lot
like
of
we
things.
want the
His
answer.
good
We
friend is
want
Baker,
the
right?
question, you know? So, let's not talk about that.
It's a thing. Like we live. It's incredible how when we're, you know, we lack so much political education here, but we know what's going on.
So what's good with Baker and Rivera?
I don't even know, but what that says to me, I mean, there's a lot of tea there to drink. We might need to bring a couple cups for everybody. But I mean, if we learn how to tell the difference between progressive policies that work for us versus policies that are, you know, systemically racist or conservative or Republican, not all policies that are Republican are racist, but I mean, like, if we learn how to see how those policies impact,
Right.
then we could see that tea for ourselves.
Right.
Because otherwise it's just like rumor and all this other stuff, and like there's
She's walking on nails, man.
yeah, right, like we got to be careful, you know what I'm saying? Because like there's like it's being an organizer, being a grassroots organizer for years in Lawrence, and becoming a political organizer to becoming a public official. When I was an organizer, I could say and do things. I could walk up to the cops with 100 people behind me and be like, yo, these fucking dudes are trying to, you know what I mean? And I've done that before. I've done it in fucking Lawrence before. But as a public official, if I do that, it has to be a lot more calculated. And so while, you know, what progressiveness also means for everybody out there is also, like, to your point, like, is not allowing for the image of a clean image that they want to present to the world when they're sweeping everything under the rug, means like bringing it out. And that also means because we're revealing the ugliness that's underneath, we're also getting shit for it, and we're also being told to shut up, and we're also being campaigned against.
Yeah.
People, we're trying to get people to vote against us or get people to vote to run in other districts to be against us.
Yeah.
And like I don't even know where I was gonna go.
I think that's a fear-based response. Like, for me, that's
Jesus Christ.
we're scared of your political power and your fear, your lack of fear of being electable. To your point, like, we're not. I think for me, when you are consistently, authentically representing the people, you don't have to worry about electability. You don't have to worry about your colleagues liking you because you never dissent. I mean, it's just.
It was weird. There was I remember on the Columbia gas incident, there was an important, I'm not gonna say who, but it was an important person that works in the mayor's building, and they reeked of alcohol, and they were right there at the president, you know, giving the talk. Baker was behind them, you know, and all that stuff, and that was pretty crazy. I wonder what was going on, you know, what's going on with that money, because I only see this person very stressed out when there's big money involved, and anything else that's not gonna bring big money or something gets swept under the rug. And also have some, you know, one of these days, I don't know, I might get this. I'm gonna see if I could get some permission to get this person, because I don't know. Nobody ever mentioned the change in us getting meters and where that money, the extra money,
the parking meters.
Yeah, parking meters, and how at the beginning you could see some of it going back to the streets. Now it's like same old Lawrence without the meters, but the meters are still there, and people are still putting it in the machines. People are putting money in the machines, and they're not even getting their tickets out. You know, like, where's this funding going if it's not going back on the meters, if it's not going back on the roads, if it's not going back where it's supposed to go?
Right.
I mean, we have the same
Transparency.
parking meters we put in the first place when we first started. I mean, I'm pretty sure those things could pay itself 10 or 20 times before, you know, and that. You know, that is something that concerns me. It's like we forget we're doing more things to extract more money from us, but where is it going?
Right.
Is it going to these lofts so we could, you know, gentrify, bring more people from Boston to live here? Like, where is it?
With only 10%
You know?
being
Boom.
low income.
You know what I mean?
And to be honest,
Like,
those meter
shit.
things is there's certain meters in certain
tight.
sections of the
Yeah,
city that
no, yeah.
if you look into it,
I want to live in the law. I was
there.
just saying too.
They shouldn't be
Anger
there.
is
Like,
fuel.
when it
Anger is
gets-
fuel.
When it gets into the meter part, right? There's certain sections that these meters shouldn't be there. They shouldn't be on the next to the public library. They shouldn't be in front of a school system. They shouldn't. You know, they are placed in areas that we need to double think. Right now, they created they did an app now. They're using an app just to help out with the meter problem because they now you can just go on an app and pay.
Yeah.
You can just pay, and if you need more money, you can just do it right from the app. It was just a switch. It was a random switch. You can still pay. You can use the normal way of paying, but who wants to use that? Because most of the time they don't work. They don't print receipt and all that. You get me? So they're slow. Sometimes you're pressing, and it goes into $2, and you're like, I don't want $2. You get me? So like, there's a point. Whatever. I'm just gonna take the $25.
Yeah. They could have just put a little commercial on Channel 22 or whatever it is, you know, like a town channel, and done that. I mean, but I bet that would have been
Some
too
more
expensive for them or
education,
something.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is something you raise a good point. For me, this is something where I would encourage someone to attend a city council meeting and share your concerns and
And run for office.
Yeah.
run for office. I will say yes.
I love
We
it.
all the people
Why are you-
closest to the struggle are the ones that need to be closest to the power.
Please have progressive
I'm
politics.
so thankful that I had friends who encouraged me to do this, to lean into my power, because, you know, being a young Latina, I'm told you're not experienced enough. Like you're too young. You're not white. Like maybe you're not told that explicitly, but it's implicit when you see the world and all positions of power that are not representative of our community. And so I mean to say that I think there needs to be more regular people in elected positions, in positions of power. I think that's as authentic as it gets. I feel like we understand the struggle. We know what it's like to be in Lawrence Public Schools, and that's where I come from. I encourage everyone to run for something.
And to be honest, it gets to the point that those same people that are saying that we lack information, that we too young, they should listen to us. They should see what we're about. That we didn't do this. Oh, let me just do it just to do it. You know what I mean? We did this because we care. We did this because we sit down. I think we are more involved in the community. We want to learn and understand the different perspective are all districts and come together. You know, because in the day we're the city of Lawrence, and we all have one mission. You know, it's the better good for our people.
He's such a politician, man.
No, it's true. It's our moment in
You should go like this with your
time.
thumb.
Like millennials,
Actually, we're trying to do-
not doing that.
It's liberate.
we have collective power though. No, but it's true. We are like all of us.
Yeah.
All of us, like, we are stronger collectively than the few people in positions of power.
I hate you.
Sorry, I'm trying to be serious, and everyone's no, but like
I'm gonna go
seriously,
the whole
it's
time.
it's our moment in time.
People.
Nationally too, like millennials and Latinos specifically represent the largest voting body for this upcoming election.
Yeah.
Like we have collective power. You know, Julia Mejia, the first Latina city councilor in Boston, she won by one vote. Like if that doesn't exemplify the power of your voice, I don't know what else would. But
And the mayor, look at this. The
Shout
mayor
out to
campaign
Julia.
that is running right
shout
now.
out to Julia.
The mayor candidacy that is, you know, all these people, great people that want to run. but if you look, we want change. We want new perspectives. We want to go from the old ways to new ways and find new bridges. We need to find ways to communicate and allocate money to where it's needed and forget about the same old ways of this is the way that we're doing and we're just gonna go that way. And the city is gonna see a more progressive individual running for office, and I think that represents us, represents what we want in our community. And we're excited.
I think part of the specifics of some of that stuff is we need to invest more in the people in the city, invest in the youth, invest in local businesses more. Like there's a bunch of programs. There's like E for All.
So there's outlets to invest in these things.
So what you say?
There's outlets for us to invest in those things. Like that's the thing. Sometimes, you know, we need to do those things, but are there outlets for us to invest in our communities? How easy it is? Is it, you know, like it might not be easy for the man that doesn't have a technology in front of them or something like that. You know, I wonder. And I wanted to have before I end up closing this out, I usually ask a random question to you guys. Do you think by the time you're, let's say, 40 or 50, or the guys or the higher ups giving you the direction and basically telling you, hey, listen, be quiet, do you think you'll grow to be that same exact person once you have enough experience as a politician? And why?
No way.
No way. I feel like for myself, I'm an individual that you are a leader. I'm doing the hand thing. You're a leader. You're a leader, but at the same time, you need to understand how to follow. You need to understand how to shut up and listen.
Got the politician hand. I'm telling you, bro.
Was he saying that to me?
Politician hands.
So it gets to the point, right, that I don't think I will ever see myself. It gets to certain sections that don't get me wrong, it does happen sometimes that you're like, yeah, you need to stop talking. What you're saying is not what our people need, and you need to stop talking. You're not representing us well, you know. But you always, those same people, you always want to listen, because everybody has their agendas, but they have their own passion. And sometimes we can come to a conclusion that certain things that we all agree on. And that's how we move forward,
So why don't you think you might end up like
I
that
love that
politician?
question. I think what you're describing is a sense of complacency maybe and just comfort. For me, I have a strong heart for equity and inclusion and belonging, and I'm very, very much invested in the needs of people other than myself. And so I for me, there's always something to advocate for. And I truly believe that like most systems were not designed to help working class people. And it's up to us to analyze those and resolve and fix things. I think, you know, whether we like to admit it or not, we are deeply unequal by factors such as race and class. And so we have to take a harder look at that and really determine where to move forward next. So for me, there's no such thing as like neutrality. For me, like we all have a stance on something. We all have our biases, and that shapes the way we interact with the world and how we move forward. And I think that's an important part of democracy. So I could never see myself in complacency from that perspective, because the world is bigger than myself, and I always have to take that into account. So
why don't you think you're gonna end up?
I'm too woke for that shit.
His mind is decolonized. His mind is decolonized. Is that what it is?
He already went through the process.
Yo.
No. I mean, we're still going through it, of course. But I mean that's like for real. That's to say, I hold way too much fucking guilt if I do something wrong.
Yeah.
Because I see what's happening. You know what I mean?
I mean,
I'm gonna cry right now. You know what I mean? Like, sorry.
I mean, their hairs, don't they turn white after like a girl? I mean, like.
Yo tengo 3 greñas por aquí. I can't wait till I get my hair
It's
all
like the
white
more
and be like a wizard and
secrets.
shit. Like the guy from Kill Bill, Pai Mei. Like, you know how he says?
Right. Well, guys.
So your guilt. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I'll continue.
Yeah, let me just finish that point, please. No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean like once we recognize what's happening to, like, we all know what's happening to us. We can feel it viscerally. We're emotional. We feel like we want to lash out. We feel like we know that some kind of injustice, like we're being had, Malcolm X style. We're being bamboozled. Yo, watch that series on Netflix. It's really good. Yo, that's an endorsement right there.
Turn the
but like once we like figure out the language around and the context around what those feelings are coming from, which like we're all doing that in some way. Read a book, talk to some friends, talk about the issues, whatever helps you do it. Watch a documentary. Like I feel like once we're faced with a moral choice, we have to make that choice, or else that shit lives in us, and like that, like I can't stand that guilt. If I get older and I become complacent, I expect someone to kick my ass. Yeah. If I lose it, like I'm not perfect today. Like I mess up all the time today.
Yeah, we're not perfect.
Please kick my, like I invite you for a swift kick. With that steel toe real quick. But like, and I think that's the other thing too, is like having community accountability, so that we could create the support structures. Because yes, I'm gonna get tired. I'm mad tired already. We're gonna get tired. I'm tired. And I think that when we don't have the right supports, when we don't have the right supports, that's when people fall off and get sold out, and like they take that job for $200,000, and that's how the white power structure gets you out of the movement. They give you a comfortable position, or they say that you're crazy, and because you can't take that pressure of being marginalized, being called a young Latina, being called a leftist or a crazy socialist or something. Yes, I'm socialist. They say all these things to you to try to beat you down because they recognize your power. And so we need to create the support systems in order to not allow ourselves to fall off.
Yes.
And we do want to thank you for bringing us here, and I hope that those that do see that are from Lawrence, that are from surrounding cities, that come. We have an event coming up actually on the 24th of February. It's going to be an educational.
Monday, February 24th, Lawrence Public Library, 6 p.m. Free Dominican food.
It's going to be an educational. It's going to be an educational forum, right, to educate our community of the things that are happening, especially in the Student Opportunity Act. We want to make sure that everybody understands that they have a voice and is here, right? You have your own voice, but we're going to make sure that it's listened to.
Amplified.
And together we're stronger, and that's always going to be the true meaning of that.
Before we close it, when is voting? When do we vote?
For the presidential primary, it's the first couple weeks of March.
Yeah.
In March.
And
it's coming up.
In September.
March. All right, March.
For the president.
Go out to vote.
And then we also gonna have elections also for state representatives coming up and stuff like that. And we want to make sure that the people that are supporting our education and our goals and mission in the city of Lawrence stay in office. You know what I mean? We need to make sure that those individuals that represent us stay in office. And people that are going to go into the presidency, that they have a subject, not that represent us, but they listen to us, and that they figure out that what is going on in our lives, in our cities, in our working class cities. We can go on and on this. We can go on and on this. And
that's the next episode.
Thank you so much for having us.
Presidential debate.
You let me talk. Mira, no dejo el mic.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Well, guys, thanks for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This was so fun.
Thank you.
We hope to see
I
you
shouldn't be clapping,
soon.
right?
Yeah, it's all right. It doesn't matter.
I'll clap too.
Towards the